Yo guys, it's time for another video. This is Legends of Mythic Heroes 3. A Champions Arena just ended. The exciting thing is, after this one actually, I'm going to be doing an update to my tier list. There's a lot of changes here. So if you remember last week, I'm going to try and get through this pretty quick. If you remember last week, it was actually the start of the IW600, 500, 600 era. And this is actually the first time that all of the top players got to set their kind of metagames in order and really start developing their heroes. And I actually think it's like pretty unfair how strong the whales have become with these updates. But as always, we'll start with Jotaro, the OG, aka DeeGorGor. Uh, Jotaro made a few adjustments to his lineup. So mostly he kept everything the same here for these three teams. But he brought in Oberon, Marduk. So he basically made like a green comp. It's very aggressive because it has the Marduk, Oberon, who are both like DPS heroes, plus the Zeus, the Chiron, and the Freya. So this is a very aggressive green lineup, much more aggressive than the previous version. And then the interesting thing about Jotaro this time is a lot of people have been talking about how strong GM is after the update. So he actually brought in Prometheus, Oda, and GM. And GM and Oda both do AoE damage. So this is like a blue team. This is a very unique team. Jotaro is always kind of at the forefront of experimenting, even though he's one of the biggest whales. He used this one as a closer, and it won, which means it was his last team, and it basically won like every match that it played. Um, like at least 7 victories against 0 losses. So pretty interesting there. And then you can see Jotaro, the list of heroes that he's opening up for IW. So eventually, I mean, I will write a guide, or do a guide on IWs, but I'm still kind of working it out and trying to learn. But basically, they get their power from like a few elements, but it's not only about the IW500 and the IW600 ability, but it's actually about unlocking all of these 8 sections. And then you can't see this because it's not my account, but actually let me just go back to my root. And this is Oda here. This is my Oda, and you can see here this corresponds to level 20 of unlocking this node, which is actually a lot of resources. And I've cut down my spending quite a bit in this game, so I'm not going to be there for a while. But actually, these colored boosts here, when you collect 2, 4, and 8 of the same color. Also, you don't seem to be that handcuffed by the purple ones, the reroll ones. It's all about like the essences and stuff. But basically, as you go along, you unlock it. So it's not only about the IW600. You'll actually find that a lot of the players right now, they don't even have full IW600s. They're more like focused on unlocking that 8-piece color bonus and then the extra stats from all of that. So, I mean, Jotaro is just looking super scary because compared to like all of the non-spenders, he has like eight heroes that are buffed, maybe even more than that. But for now, I've only counted 8. And you compare it to someone like Papa, who's been getting by with more like skill and less spending. Papa is only VIP 13, which means he spent maybe even like 50K less than some of these other players, and he's really struggling. So I'm not even recording like what he's doing so much, because he really doesn't have a chance, I would say, until things kind of balance themselves out more. He's running kind of similar lineups to previous. Well, you can see like I recorded his changes, slight tweaks to the YSS Marduk lineup, and then yeah, I mean that's basically it. Slight change to the bringing Naga back in. But I mean there's really not much you can do at this point. He's so far behind in IWs and all that. One thing I decided I'm gonna do, because this is Legends of Mythic Heroes, but the 6 top players that I picked here, they're not winning every time. I'm gonna include the winners lineup in here, just so it's calculated in for purposes of assigning the percentages for the heroes usage and stuff. I think the you know, winner of that week should definitely count into the totals as well. So that'll give us more kind of data points to get like a better, you know, better idea of what the strong heroes are. T-Train, I believe this is his second time winning in a row, but the funny thing you notice when looking at T-Train's lineups is he's someone who's been playing against Papa for a very long time. And look at this lineup here. This lineup basically pretty much this Lilith Odin lineup, and then this Leo Amaterasu lineup. So he's basically copied Papa. He basically like at some point decided he didn't want to use his brain to counter Papa anymore because he's like way more developed. He decided to just copy all of the lineups exactly, which you know isn't really a bad strategy. Yeah, it's definitely not a bad strategy. Quiin won again, so Quiin is actually absolute monster. Has won all 5 of the times I've been tracking. So she's won 5 times in a row. Absolute beast. Quiin, I really like Jotaro and Quiin because they're 2 of the biggest whales and the 2 most successful players. But they don't just like sit on it. They really try like unique lineups and new things. And the Quiin tech here, the Quiin lineup that I think is really cool is she's running Oda and Typhon together for the same time in a row. I think Oda and Typhon are 2 of the top like synergies with each other in the game. Like any 2 hero combo, because you know Typhon's ultimate gives you like an attack steroid, and then Oda's ultimate is an auto attack that hits everyone on the other team, but he gets lifesteal as well. So these 2 like synergize incredibly well together, and I think it's super cool how Quiin has taken basically a hero that isn't used at all, Typhon, and really made like a strong team out of it. I think this is really cool, and as you guys know, I'm Oda's #1 fan. The other lineups are mostly the same. This is just the Lilith variant. It's actually pretty interesting that she seems to have cut Marduk out. So this is kind of like a Prometheus lineup. This one's kind of weird. To be honest, I don't super understand Prometheus that well. His kit is so long that like I barely even read it. It seems like he just basically does a lot of like random direct damage, and then his ult is kind of like weird for me to understand too. You know, all these like tinders. I mean, I guess it does like pings here and there and deals energy and stuff. Like, yeah, I'm not super when he gets more like kind of developed in the meta. So let's just take a quick look here. He's being used in three out of the 10 lineups. When he starts like getting a little more popular and stuff in the meta, I might be a little more interested in him. But for now, he seems like just a whale toy basically. Archie lineup's the same, and this classic Amaterasu. This is the most common Amaterasu lineup. It's basically the same. And if you look at through Quinn's lineup as well, she's also just unlocked a bunch of them. I don't think she has a single IW600 actually, so she's clearly prioritizing the other stuff. But the thing I find interesting about Quiin is, you know, I took a look at all of the IWs and I tried to kind of evaluate them myself, and she seems to agree with a lot of what I was thinking. Like, I thought Oda's stuff was pretty strong. I thought Typhon's IW was really strong. I thought Freya's IW that gives physical cleave is very strong as well. So it's pretty interesting. And it looks like she's building Naga as well. Let me just quick check this one. I forgot this one. Okay. So yeah, so Quiin had a pretty smooth journey to the championship again this time. The thing I noticed since the update is Quiin and Jotaro, they're not really struggling at all. They're finishing like 5-0, 4-1 most of their matches. 54 here. So some of these less successful players recently, I've stopped recording their IWs because it takes me a lot of time to click through every single one of them. But I don't remember exactly where 54 finished, but it looks like he didn't make it to the knockout round. He's been keeping most of his lineups the same, but he has been using like skins and stuff and newer heroes, so it's not like he's inactive, but it seems like he's kind of lost heart for adjusting his lineups. So Quiin won that group. In group 4, Chimera from Anka Rebirth won. Shout out to Chimera, one of the cool things about Chimera is he's one of the only players to not use Amaterasu. Not one of the. He's like the only hero, only player in a very long time to not use Amaterasu. I think he has a pretty developed account, obviously, to be winning Champions Arena. So I think he's just doing it more as like a statement of saying, I'm not using Amaterasu. But the fact remains that this is the only lineup you'll see that doesn't use Amaterasu. So it's basically using Lilith comp, where Morgan actually keeps Lilith alive, which is cool. To be honest, I don't super understand the Oda Nua comp, but I guess Prometheus is, kind of strong enough to be the primary damage carry, which is interesting. He's also using Mirasaki and Aphrodite, which is another big flex. So this is like one of the more creative lineups that we've seen, just in general, period. And then a Marduk, the classic Marduk, Lucy, Sousa trio, but with Oda as well. Percy's looking really strong, by the way. And then in Group 5, so the thing that's interesting about Group 5 is, there's a zone that's consistently been dominated by Biu Biu, who's the GM of the strongest guild. But the interesting thing about Biu Biu, actually, when I looked through his roster, so I decided to only look at the IWs of these four: Biu Biu, Quiin, Jotaro, and Llorac, because Papa and who's the other player? 54 haven't been doing so well lately. But Biu Biu actually is not really investing that much in IWs, which means he's not really spending that much money. And it seems to have gotten him in trouble. He won the week before, but he's not really going to win if he's spending this little. It looks like he only has 3 heroes developed for IWs, and they're not really even that far along. So he seems to kind of be like ignoring the feature or not spending money on it, and that's going to lead to him not winning very much. He made not too many changes to his lineup. It's basically exactly the same. And then Felix Yu won this time. This might be Biu Biu's guild, actually. They might be in the same guild. Yeah, it looks like they're in the same guild. This player also might have been. I can't really read Chinese, so I can't tell. But it looks like they're all in the same guild. Yeah, so it looks like this player let Felix win. And Felix was running Morgan Amaterasu, but with Hercules. Hercules is so unused that I don't even have him blue. This Typhon comp. I think Typhon's going to be very strong with the IW. And then, I mean, these comps are also like pretty unusual as well, but just variants of stuff we already know. And then finally, Llorac, who's basically now the 3rd most successful player in this game. I think this one gets him to 10 wins, I want to say. But Llorac, was shaky for 2 weeks. Yeah, so basically, Llorac is in 3rd place here. Basically an absolute monster. I think he's won like 80% of his Champions Arenas or something ridiculous. Let me see here. He's 10 wins. Yes, so 10 out of 15. So he's won 67% of the times he's played, and he's also pretty big whale. So he, as you can see here, he's built actually very strong IWs. So he has 4 IW600s, which means it almost looks like he might hit. I think there's a little delay between how these are updated, but I wouldn't be surprised to even see him at VIP 18 at some point. Lineups are, pretty much the same. It looks like he shifted from this green to this. And then interesting thing about Llorac is he got rid of the Archie completely and made it an Apollo version instead. I don't really like Idun in these lineups. I think Idun is one of the most passive heroes in the game, but I could see why in a comp with Odin and Apollo or Odin and Archie, Idun is actually pretty good because Odin keeps generating ravens for shields, so then adding like effective health is pretty good. So Llorac is back on top with how hard he's wailing with 40 IWs, and that's kind of an unfortunate thing about the update and something that I really don't like I think the whales are just like way too strong. And then finally, the winner of Group 7. This is only 3 teams. I'm not going to spend too much time on these players, although this player is a Korean player and he seems to have won, I think, twice now. 3 times. So he's actually a player that's worth watching as well. But his triple lineup was basically Arky Odin, the Marduk, Lucy, Susa comp with Oda, which seems to be one of the uses for Oda, and then the classic Tangan, the classic Amaterasu comp. So yeah, so we're gonna go into the tier list after this video, but basically, not much has changed, but the tier list is going to change a bunch, but not much has changed. You can kind of ignore this column. Let me just hide it because it's comparing 10 versus 6 last time. I'll just go ahead and hide this too. But for this week, we see, the usual suspects at the top. So Tangan, Hella, Morgan, Oda, Odin, WQ, Western Queen used 100%. Amaterasu, like I said, the Chimera player, more trolling. I mean, not trolling, but, just flexing. I think that's like basically a 10, and then YSS Susa. I mean, all these heroes at the top have been at the top for a very long time. So we'll just kind of keep an eye on that. But the tier list will be changing quite a bit. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. This was Legends of Mythic Heroes Part 3, and we're gonna go right into the tier list after this.